Welcome to Weymouth Pubs. Past and Present. Part 1 features The Black Dog, Customs House, The Old Rooms Inn, The Royal Oak, The Sailor's Return, The Boot Inn, The George Tavern, The King's Arms, The Ship Inn, The William Henry. All the pubs in this Part 1 are still trading today. I have tried to include any history that I could find about the pubs. I hope you enjoy this video and to subscribe to my channel and click the bell to receive notifications for the next parts.
The Black Dog. The landlord, at the time, of this Weymouth pub purchased the first black, Newfoundland Labrador, dog ever seen in the southwest from one of the new trading ships from that region. The dog, apparently, brought such an amazing number of curious sightseers from the surrounding area that the landlord changed the name of the pub in honor of the dog that had brought so much prosperity and interest to the hostelry. There is an early 17th century date above the left ground floor window in the Black Dog which reads 1621, but the back of the building is known to be much older. And it was in the 17th century that the first of two known murders occurred in the building. February 1645 was a time in Weymouth's history when grisly death was commonplace, as the English Civil War raged and Royalist sympathizers in the town plotted to overthrow the parliamentary garrison commanded by Colonel William Sydenham, and 500 people died in one bloody night during the Battle of Weymouth. During the Siege of Melcombe there was even a murder at the pub. A trader with flaxen hair and a yellow beard, who hailed from Taunton Deane in Somerset, was lodging at the pub. His name was William Courtney, and while he was lodging at the pub, he was mercilessly slain by the landlord, John Childs, who battered him on the head with a hammer as he slept in order to steal the £288 in gold and £12 in silver which Courtney had with him. Childs and his wife, Margaret, then stripped the body and, in the darkness, carried it out to a nearby jetty and threw it into the sea, no doubt hoping that one more cadaver in a war zone would cause no particular suspicion. But the body was recognized and the pair arrested. Margaret Childs soon broke under questioning and gave evidence against her husband for the murder. In the 18th century, a smuggler became the second person murdered in the pub. Richard Hawkins was whipped to death in front of the fireplace in 1758. In the same century author Daniel Defoe was staying in the town and was inspired to write Robinson Crusoe after meeting shipwrecked mariner Alexander Selkirk in the pub. The pub welcomed a royal visitor in 1804, King George III. The king caroused with officers of his German legion at the hostelry, who were guarding him at the time. The Black Dog was just a short distance from the king's apartments at Gloucester Lodge. The Black Dog is located at 3, St. Mary Street. Although the Customs House is not really a pub but a cafe, it is such an interesting building I thought I would give it a mention. The Custom House is a former custom house at Weymouth, Dorset, England, operated by H.M. Customs to handle the trade of Weymouth Harbour. The building, which has origins to the late 18th century, has been Grade II listed since 1970. The Custom House was originally a warehouse and residence, completed around 1794. The warehouse was operated by Messrs. Robilliard and Ahir, the former of whom lived in the ground floor residence. In the early 19th century, the building went through much modification. Later in 1874, the then owner Sir Frederick Johnstone leased the building to H.M. Customs, who continued to use the building as a custom house until 1985. Portland's H.M. Coast Guard then took over and renovated the building for use as a maritime rescue sub-center, which opened in 1988. In 2010, it was announced that the center would be closed as part of government cuts. The center closed in September 2014 and was subsequently sold. In 2016, planning permission was approved to turn the ground floor of the building into a water sports training facility with a cafe, and the first, second, and third floors into residential apartments. The Customs House is located at No. 8 Customs House Quay. The New Rooms Inn was present by 1861 when the publican was William Hart. It's a Grade II listed building. Of course, still existing today is the similarly named Old Rooms Inn just opposite. The new rooms inn did not have beer pumps, but small kegs were lifted and placed on a rack beyond the bar and beer drawn off directly into the glass. One day I found a hop floating in my glass. Sadly, that wouldn't happen today. The view is looking along Trinity Street in Weymouth with the old rooms inn on the left. The building was originally a private dwelling that backed onto the harbor. Then in the 18th century it was used as the assembly rooms until 1785, when new ones were built and the word old was added. Steve, where it is now located in Cove Street, although the main bar is still located in this building, this would have been the rear of the original house. The assembly rooms were originally used as a sort of hostelry, where food, drink and accommodation was available, especially during the summer, much as a modern hotel does now. The Duke of Gloucester apparently took tea here in 1771 during a visit to the town. The Old Rooms Inn is located on Cove Row.
The Royal Oak is a friendly traditional Grade II listed pub with big screen sports and large beer garden. Live music every Sunday, 2 to 4 p.m. summer, 7 to 9 p.m. winter. We also have comfortable accommodation in a refurbished coach house, including double and family rooms plus multi-room suites. Punch Area Pub of the Year 2022. 5-star Cask Mark Accreditation 2022. Beer and Skittles by John Penny. With the Skittle season now more than halfway through and a few less than subtle hints from the Summer Skittle League organizers to get your applications in now, I am at two minds. Shall I continue with my quest to get the West Country, and Dorset in particular, playing the best outdoor summer game there is, bat and trap obviously, or do I try introducing a new game to see if it catches on? Cask Mark approved. For Alesh on at all times, all from Dorset Brewing Company. 6 real ciders on at all times. 20% off for all camera members. We only sell locally sourced sausages to complement your mash direct from the fantastic sausage factory. Wide selection of nuts. Dogs welcome. Open all year round. 10 a.m. to midnight. The Royal Oak is located on Custom House Quay.
This photo from the early 1980s shows the Sailors' Return in Devenish livery. The Sailors has always been a popular pub for locals, and this story from the Dorset County Express and Agricultural Gazette in October 1872 tells how it was sometimes difficult to keep patrons away. Perhaps it was a folk night. Borough Petty Sessions, Saturday. Before Dr. J. Drew and G. Reynolds, Esq. James Ford alias James Thompson, a wretched-looking fellow, with his clothes in tatters, was brought up for being drunk and riotous in St. Nicholas Street, Melcombe Regis, and also at the police station. Sergeant Harvey saw a prisoner put out of the Sailors' Return last night. He was drunk, and swore at and cursed the landlord. Witness told him to go away, and make no disturbance, but he declared he would go in again, and did so, 2 or 3 times. At last the sergeant took him to the police station, where he was so violent that 3 of the constables were obliged to take his boots off, and strap him down. Prisoner said he remembered nothing about it, he was subject to fits. Mr. Arden, fits of drunkenness. 7 days hard labor. This was the first man who has been sentenced by the borough magistrates to labor for drunkenness.
Roger Collins is in this photo of the Sailors' Return pub with his partner Patricia Apps and their friend Ken Lester. Roger and Patricia were landlord and landlady of the Weymouth Harbourside pub around 20 years ago and ran the pub for about 5 years. Roger says, "At the time we had another pub in Leicestershire and we came to Weymouth because I was quite heavily into fishing. We have really happy memories of our time at the Sailors' Return. We built the trade up and we made some lifelong friends there who we still see now." I remember the photo being taken and being interviewed by the harbour about some change that was happening in pubs. Our pub was really popular with anglers and divers, and we would run a B&B at the pub and start doing breakfasts at 6 a.m. The Sailors' Return is a traditional quayside public house, parts of which date back to the 17th century. It comprises 2 bars and also offers bed and breakfast accommodation. The waterfront bar offers spectacular views of the harbour and contains hand-painted murals of local historic events from smuggling to travel and old maps of the town. The public bar has a warm welcoming atmosphere and has a pool table and an internet jukebox. Helen and Steve offer you all a warm welcome. We have traditional real ales and a wide variety of beers, wines, and spirits. The Sailor's Return has a wide variety of entertainment with folk music every week. The Sailor's Return is located at 1 St. Nicholas Street, a former Devenish pub which was acquired by Ringwood Brewery in 1998. Early 17th century with stone mullioned windows and leaded windows which fronted the former busy high street of Old Weymouth. The right-hand side of the building is almost covered by signage in stone relief, the Boot Fine Hales and Stout Wines and Spirits. It has a 3-roomed layout and retains much from a 1930s refit as well as retaining one Victorian bar counter. The corner bare-boarded small room has saloon bar, white on red leaded panels in twin doors and retains a bar counter that is possibly 100 years old and painted green, old dado paneling with wall benches attached but a modern stone surround fireplace with log burner. Note the Victorian water tap on the bar counter which is sadly no longer in working order. There are many of these to be found in use in Scottish bars as whiskey is the only spirit to benefit from a little water. Other taps can be found in England most notably at the Camera Heritage Pub the Victoria, London W2 which is still in working order. Up 2 steps to the rear is a very small snug with one panelled wall and is served by a hatch/doorway to the side of the servery. The bare-boarded public bar on the left was originally 2 rooms, note, public bar, in white letters on red leaded panels on the window either side of the entrance doors. It has an old, possibly interwar bar counter also painted green but the bar back is modern. There is more old dado paneling. In recent years, this room has been doubled in size by combining with a room to the far left, possibly a public room but more likely former living quarters. There is old dado paneling and seating in alcoves on either side of an old fireplace. This is the kind of pub that you don't find very often. No loud jukebox, no fruit machines and no feeling like you're in a restaurant. It's just a traditional pub that serves really good real Alesh in a friendly setting and atmosphere. Everyone made us and our attention-seeking little pug very welcome. We will definitely return. The only thing that could make a trip to your local even better is being able to enjoy your drinks in the comfort of a pub garden. And that's exactly what you can do at the Boot Inn. When the great British weather allows, you can enjoy the lush outdoors in comfort and raise a glass to al fresco life. Although the building itself dates to the early 17th century, the room layout and many of the fittings are from a 1930s refit. The Boot is located at High West South.
The plaque on the wall of the George Inn on Custom House Quay notes that it is on the site of the original George Tavern, bequeathed to the town by Sir Samuel Miko in 1666. The current building was built in 1885, so this photograph of the original inn must date from shortly before that. The imposing George Inn has stood on Weymouth's quayside for centuries in one form or another. Wealthy businessman Sir Samuel Miko had purchased the George Tavern in the 17th century for use as his residence when he came to Weymouth to see to business matters. Many of his trading ships came into what was then a very busy trading port. When he died he left the building to the town of Weymouth, along with a large sum of money. Samuel Miko decreed that £500 of it was to be used for the preaching of an annual sermon in the local church. He also stipulated that money was to be given towards the binding out of 3 poor children apprentices. And of course, not forgetting those sailors who toiled long and hard so he could trade overseas, he deemed that some should go towards the relief of 10 poor decayed seamen of the town, namely those aged 60 and upwards. That charity is still going strong in the town to this very day. But that's not really what this tale is about. It concerns the sad story of one of the residents of the George Tavern further up through its extensive history. In 1879 42-year William James Hines and his wife Sarah were living in the George Inn on Weymouth's bustling quayside, along with their large family. William was a Hampshire-born man, but had moved to the Weymouth area with his family to start a new life as a licensed victualler. Move along to September 1879 and their whole world was about to be turned upside down. Dad William had just purchased himself a second-hand gun, a fowling piece. he fancied a spot of hunting, probably on Weymouth's then extensive backwater. For some unknown reason, William handed this gun to one of his young sons, 15-year-old William, to take upstairs. Of course, you can only guess at what's coming next, knowing young boys' propensity for getting up to mischief. William, or Willie as he was known in the family, did as his father bid and carried the gun upstairs, but upon hearing his younger siblings happily playing in their bedroom he sprang into the room surprising them. Willie then turned towards his little brother, pointing the fowling piece whilst uttering those fateful words, "I will shoot you, Bertie." William then jumped up onto the bed. Carrying on with what seemed at first like a jolly ruse, he carefully put the cap on the gun, pointed it towards the ceiling, was just about to pull the trigger, when suddenly he lost his balance, stumbled and fell. Both Willie and gun landed on the floor, followed by an almighty explosion. Smoke and the acrid smell of spent gunpowder filled the tiny room. Mum Sarah, working the bar downstairs, heard the explosion and the hysterical screams that followed. She ran up those stairs 2 at a time, fear gripped her heart. Sarah opened the door to a room out of Dante's hell. Tragically, 9-year-old Bertie, or to give him his full name, Albert Isaac, had been stood in the wrong place at the wrong time. The shot went straight through his neck, its merciless course ripping out skin, muscles and tissues en route. Little Bertie lay dead on the floor, his blood and skin splattered the walls. Sister Florence, only aged 7 at the time, was besides herself, as was William, who began to realize the enormity and horror of what had just happened. Over and over again he cried out, "I have shot Bertie, I did not try to do it." Unable to comprehend how in a mere second, his life could have turned into such a living nightmare. The following Monday an inquest was held at the Guildhall under the watchful eye of Mr. Giles Simons. The parents and children were called to give their sorrowful evidence before the court. Willie's story differed to that of his younger sister. He claimed that he had been stood on the bed, but the gun had accidentally gone off, knocking him to the floor. In the chaos of the horrific incident it's often hard to recall facts, but despite this, the coroner had no doubt, there was one man to blame for this, and one man only, the father. The jury retired for half an hour, and returned with their verdict on the death of Albert Isaac Hines, that the deceased met his death by the explosion of a gun, through proper precautions not having been taken. The very next day, distraught Dad William was brought before the courts and charged with manslaughter of his own young son Bertie. The body of little Albert Isaac Hines was lowered into the cold earth on the September 24th in the graveyard at Wyke Regis. For his siblings and parents, the memories of that dreadful day could not be quite so easily buried. The George Tavern is located on Custom House Quay. This historic 16th century inn has had Georgian renovations in the 18th century and a Victorian attic in the 19th century. King George III stayed in Weymouth in 1789, on doctor's orders. He was taken across the esplanade by a horse-drawn bathing machine, and a small orchestra would play "God Save the King" as he stepped into the water. Today the King's Arms extends a royal welcome to one and all. This quayside hostelry has recently had a face-lift, giving a lighter bar area and modernized lounge. Customers are a mix of tourists and locals, ideally situated for views of the busy harbor, with its lifting bridge and a stone's throw from the town center. 20% off all drinks Monday to Thursday from noon until 4 p.m. Regular hails. This pub serves 3 regular beers. Dartmoor Jail Ale. Sharp Sea Fury. Street Hostel Proper Job. So if you like authentic beer, this is the pub for you. The King's Arms is located at 15 Trinity Road.
A historic harbourside Dorset pub restaurant overlooking Weymouth Marina. Situated in the heart of Weymouth, overlooking the entrance to Weymouth Harbour, this cracking Dorset pub was the very first owned by Hall and Woodhouse, and is the perfect place to relax and unwind in traditional pub surroundings. The original pub was extended and the brewery acquired the adjacent building and created an upstairs dining room with amazing views of the marina, available for private hire. There's a lovely secluded courtyard ideal for meeting up with family and friends. particularly during the summer months. Relax at our pub and restaurant in Weymouth. Feel at home in this pub on the harbour, with views of the quay and roaring log fires. It's the perfect place to eat and drink in Dorset. A pub worth talking about. Enjoy hearty pub classics, delicious Sunday roasts, and our own Dorset brewed Badger beers at this picturesque pub on Custom House Quay. Cozy up under the oak beams and watch the boats come and go from the window. Make the most of every occasion. Join us for lunch after a long walk, a wonderful family dinner, or a much-needed catch-up with friends. Whatever the occasion, you'll get a warm and friendly welcome from our team. And bring the dog. We're a dog-friendly pub and restaurant, so whether you're popping by for coffee and cake, or staying for dinner, you can still spend time with your best friend. Opening times. Monday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday, 11:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. In C17, late C19 alterations. Painted Portland stone ashlar, slate roof. The Ship Inn is located at Custom House Quay.
The William Henry. This was part of a terrace of 12 houses, built in 1834 in the gardens of Gloucester Lodge. It was owned by Prince William Henry, Duke of Gloucester, and brother of George III. The king's visits to the lodge turned Weymouth into a fashionable resort. Richard Bower, twice mayor of Weymouth, lived in these premises from the 1830s to the 1870s. From the 1920s until the 1970s, the building housed Forte's soda and milk bar. It is now a popular Weymouth pub. The William Henry is located at No. 1, Frederick Place.